I don't think I've ever actually had the pleasure of listening to Gangnam Style. Hi, I'm Matt.
Hi, I'm Danny.
In this video, we're continuing our series exploring large language model security. We'll be looking at the different kinds of vulnerabilities you might find, different attacks, and different ways to mitigate those attacks. And today's topic is on model extraction attacks, also called model stealing attacks. So I guess we begin by asking, well, what is a model extraction attack, Danny?
So the basic idea of a model extraction attack is that your model is very valuable. You spent a lot of time and energy creating it, and an adversary may want to be able to extract data from that in order to replicate it for themselves or replicate its capabilities.
So it's a kind of stealing intellectual property, that kind of risk?
Yeah, exactly that kind of thing.
So how does it work?
So it'll vary a lot from attack to attack, but the basic idea is that the attacker will have access to an API or access to query your model. And by asking it lots and lots of questions and getting lots and lots of responses, they begin to establish a data set that sort of contains all the information about that model's behavior. And then they can use that as training data for their own model.
So the idea is that you're going to query the model with very carefully crafted questions in order to build a data set that you could use to train a similar model.
Exactly that, yeah.
Is there an example of the kinds of questions you might ask?
I think it very much depends on what kind of model you're trying to steal. But if you had a model that was trained on a specific task, say in the medical domain, for instance, you might ask it lots and lots of medical related questions in order to sort of collect its knowledge and distill it into a single place.
What's particularly sneaky about this attack is all you're really doing is getting the model to do what it's been trained to do by asking it questions. But you're doing it at a scale where you can learn enough about the model to copy it. How difficult is it for an attacker to execute this attack?
So I think it depends on what safeguards you've got in place, but in general, it's surprisingly easy because, like you say, you're just asking the kinds of questions that a normal user would be asking anyway. The only real sign in a lot of cases that something's happening is just the scale and volume of queries.
And what about on the defensive side? How difficult is it to defend against and, well, even detect this kind of attack?
So I think that very much depends on the exact nature of the attack. But because these queries can just look like normal user traffic, it can be anywhere from like fairly hard to almost impossible to detect.
We really are in trouble then.
We really are.
Is there a best case? There must be something that you could at least do, because there's an aspect of scale to these attacks. So is there something we can do with that at least to have a signal that we might be being attacked?
Yeah, so I think there's a couple of things that you can do here. One is just monitoring of the volume of traffic you're receiving, and if there's any fluctuation in that, you should probably investigate what's causing it.
Sure.
The other possibility is, depending on how they're attacking it, they might be attacking with queries with a specific structure. So while they might be looking for information that the kind of casual user would be asking for, they might be asking for it in a specific way. So for instance, there are attacks where they will request it for the output to be returned in JSON so that they can easily process it on their end.
So there's an element of pattern recognition, or perhaps you could also look at it as safeguarding, right? So you could have some guardrails to protect against variations of this attack.
Yeah, definitely. There are certainly variations where you'll be able to detect them based on these properties and set up guardrails to prevent them.
Great. So the last question, Danny, is what's next in our series?
So next in our series is going to be Chris talking about jailbreaking.
I assume that's a type of LLM attack and not just what Chris is planning for next week. Well, thanks everybody for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye. I forgot to ask, is there anything funny about model extraction attacks?
Model extraction attacks featuring an impromptu performance of 4 minutes 33.
That's a very specialist reference.
Or we could do like Gangnam Style or something instead if you want.